My parents shamed me in front of everyone, and my brother finally admitted he was scared too. My mom didn't even lower her voice first. That's the part one keep replaying, not because it was dramatic, but because it was so deliberate. We were in Aunt Nadine's backyard under those warm string lights that make everything look softer than it is, and I'd just taken my first bite of potato salad when Mom clinked her spoon against the glass and said, "Since we've all got you here, we should probably talk about Aaron's situation." She smiled like she was introducing a funny story. Dad laughed once, short and approving, and my stomach dropped so fast I actually tasted metal. People turned. Forks paused midair. My cousin's husband stopped chewing. Someone's toddler squealed, and no one shushed him because everyone was suddenly listening to my parents. I froze with my plate balanced on my palm, the plastic flexing under the weight, and I felt heat climb up my neck like a rash. Mum looked straight at me, eyebrows raised like she expected me to play along. "I mean," she continued, laughing lightly, "we love her, but she's 30 and still can't figure out what she's doing. No stable job, no plan, and she gets offended when we ask." She said offended the way you say ridiculous. Dad leaned back in his chair and added, "She's just sensitive. Always has been." A couple people laughed politely, the way you laugh when you're not sure if you're supposed to. My aunt made a small noise like, "Oh dear," and my chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe properly. I looked down at my plate like it might offer instructions on what to do with your hands when your life becomes a punchline. The worst part was how normal everyone tried to make it. Someone, my uncle maybe, said, kids these days," like I wasn't sitting there. My mom nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly," she said, and she kept going because she could feel the room giving her permission. "We've done everything for her," Mum said. "We've helped, we've offered to connect her with people, but she always has an excuse. Anxiety, stress, whatever. At some point, you have to toughen up." My dad shook his head like he was disappointed in a faulty appliance. I felt my eyes sting, but I didn't cry. I couldn't. Crying would make them right in everyone's minds. Crying would prove undramatic. So I held my breath and tried to swallow the humiliation like it was just another mouthful of potato salad that went down wrong. It was my aunt's engagement barbecue, which sounds like it should have been a happy, low-stakes event. Just family, Mum had said on the phone. "Come for an hour, show your face." That's the language she uses when she wants you there for appearances. Show your face, like you're a prop. I've been putting off seeing everyone because the last year has been messy. I got made redundant, I took contract work, I applied everywhere, I did interviews, I kept getting ghosted. I'm not sitting around doing nothing. But it's not the neat story my parents can brag about. It doesn't fit the family mythology where everyone is stable and grateful and doesn't let things get to them. My brother Liam knows the real version because he's the one I text at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep. He's the one who's seen me fall apart on my couch and then pull it together the next morning to send another application. He came to the barbecue too, late like always, keys still in his hand when he walked into the yard. He caught the end of Mum's speech, and his face went blank in that way it does when he's trying not to show emotion in public. I heard Mum say, "And honestly, we're worried," with a dramatic sigh. Not worried like something's wrong, just worried she'll end up, alone, still living like a teenager. People chuckled again, more comfortably now, because once someone decides the target is safe to laugh at, everyone relaxes. My skin felt tight on my face. My ears rang. I wanted to stand up and leave, but my body was doing that old thing where it locks up to avoid making the scene worse. I could feel my heartbeat in my fingertips gripping the edge of the plate. I could hear the shallow laugh I was forcing, thin and fake, and I hated myself for it. Then my mom tipped her head and said, almost sweetly, "Tell them, Aaron. Tell them what you're doing right now." Because I genuinely don't know. The silence that followed wasn't complete. There were still birds and distant traffic and someone's phone buzzing, but it felt like the whole yard leaned toward me. It felt like I was back in high school getting called on when I hadn't done the reading. I opened my mouth and nothing came out at first. My throat was tight. My vision blurred just a little at the edges. I could feel my aunt watching me with that careful expression people get when they're witnessing something they know they shouldn't, but they don't want to interfere. My cousin Jess stared at her plate. My dad's face was set, satisfied, like he'd finally cornered me into accountability. Liam took a step forward before I did anything. It wasn't dramatic either. He just moved closer, like he was trying to physically shorten the distance between me and the rest of them. "Mom," he said, voice calm but edged. "What are you doing?" Mom blinked at him, still smiling. "We're talking. It's family." "It's not a family conversation if you're doing it like this," Liam said. He looked at me briefly, quick, like a check-in, then back at them. "You're putting her on the spot. In front of everyone." Dad snorted. "Oh, here we go." "Liam, don't start." Liam's jaw clenched. "Don't start what?" "Asking you not to humiliate her." Mom laughed, too sharp. "Humiliate? Please. She needs a wake-up call." I felt something shift inside my chest at the sound of Liam saying the word. Humiliate. Naming it made it real in a way my body couldn't ignore. Dad leaned forward, forearms on his knees, voice low but carrying. "We've tried privately. She doesn't listen. Maybe if she hears it from other people, she'll finally." "Finally what?" Liam cut in. "Finally become the version of her you can brag about." A couple heads turned more openly now. Someone coughed. The toddler started whining and got picked up and carried away, like even the kids could sense the tension. Mom's smile tightened into something brittle. "This is why we can't talk to her," she said, pointing at me like I'd done something. "Everyone's always defending her. She's 30 and acts like a victim." Liam's face went red, but his voice stayed even. "Stop calling her a victim," he said. "She lost her job. She's been working. She's been applying. She's been dealing with stuff you don't understand because you don't listen unless it fits your narrative." Mom's eyes widened. "Narrative? Oh my God, you sound like her therapist." Dad scoffed. "Is she even seeing a therapist?" Probably another excuse to not work. That did it. The heat behind my eyes turned into something else. Not tears, but anger that felt clean and sharp. I set my plate down on the nearest table a little too hard, making the plastic fork jump. "Stop," I said, and my voice came out louder than I expected. Everyone's eyes snapped to me again, and for the first time, I didn't shrink from it. Mom blinked, offended. "Excuse me. Stop talking about me like I'm not here," I said. My hands were shaking, but my words kept coming. "I'm not jobless. I've been freelancing. I've been applying. I've had interviews. I've been doing everything I can while dealing with, yes, anxiety, because guess what? It doesn't disappear because you're embarrassed by it." Dad's face hardened. "Watch your tone." There it was. The reflex. Tone policing instead of listening. Liam made a small sound, almost a laugh without humor. "Of course," he muttered. Mom threw her hands up. "See? This is exactly what we mean. She can't handle a conversation." I looked at my aunt then, because my aunt is the host, because if anyone was going to say, "Hey, not here," it would be her. Aunt Nadine's mouth opened slightly, then closed. She glanced at her fiancé. He stared at the grill like it was suddenly urgent. The yard was full of people, and suddenly I felt so alone it was physical. Liam stepped beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. He didn't put an arm around me. He didn't make it performative. He just stood there, a quiet wall. "You're doing this because you think shame works," Liam said to our parents, voice steady. "It doesn't. It just makes people hide." Dad scoffed. "Hide? From what? Reality? Life is hard. You toughen up." Liam's eyes flicked to Dad. "You think I'm tough because I don't talk about it," he said, and his voice softened a fraction. "I'm not. I'm just scared too." The words hit the yard like a dropped glass. Even Mom stopped smiling. Liam swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing, and he looked suddenly younger than his 27 years. "You want to know why Erin doesn't tell you everything?" he said. "Because every time she does, you make it about how it reflects on you. You turn it into a lecture, a joke, a story for other people." So she stops. And I stopped too. Mom stared at him. "Liam, what are you talking about?" Liam let out a breath, shaky. "I've had panic attacks in my car before work," he said, voice still controlled but with something raw underneath. "I've sat in a parking lot and thought about driving away and never coming back. I've been scared I'm going to mess up and you'll look at me the way you look at her. I've been scared of being the disappointing child." Mom's face went pale. Dad's mouth tightened like he wanted to deny it into existence. "I didn't tell you," Liam continued, because I've watched what happens when someone in this family admits they're struggling. They get mocked. They get wake-up calls. They get talked about at barbecues like entertainment. My throat closed. I stared at Liam, stunned, because I'd always thought he was the safe one, the one who could do no wrong, the one my parents listened to. I never heard him say any of this out loud. Mum's voice went quiet. Why didn't you tell us? Liam laughed once, bitter. Because you're asking me that while standing in front of 30 people after you humiliated your daughter, he said. That's why. No one spoke for a few seconds. The string lights hummed faintly. Someone's drink fizzed. The whole yard felt suspended, waiting to see what my parents would do now that the golden child had spoken. Dad cleared his throat. This is not the time, he said, and the stiffness in his voice made my stomach twist. You're making a scene at your aunt's engagement. Liam's face tightened. You're still doing it, he said softly, still more worried about the scene than what you just did. Mum looked like she might cry, but even then, her eyes flicked around at the audience, calculating, self-conscious. Can we talk inside? She asked, voice thin. I almost laughed. Now we can talk inside. Now privacy matters. I'm leaving, I said suddenly. The words came out calm, final. I grabbed my bag from the chair where I'd hung it. Mum's head snapped toward me. Don't be dramatic. I'm not, I said. I'm just not staying to be your example. Dad jaw worked. So you're punishing us. I looked at him. You punish me, I said quietly. Publicly. I'm opting out. Liam turned to me. I'll come with you, he said immediately, like he'd already decided. Mum's eyes widened. Liam. No, Liam said, firm. Not tonight. We walked out through the side gate, past my aunt's hydrangeas, past the little table of gifts. I could hear the party trying to restart behind us, someone making an awkward joke, someone laughing too loud. The air outside the yard felt cooler, cleaner, like my lungs could finally open. We got to my car, and the second the doors closed, the silence hit. My hand was shaking so badly, I fumbled the keys. I sat there staring at the steering wheel until my breathing slowed. Liam stared out the passenger window, jaw clenched so hard the muscle twitched. After a minute, he whispered, I'm sorry. I turned to him. For what? For not saying something sooner, he said, voice rough. For letting it be you. My chest tightened. You were a kid too. He swallowed hard. Yeah, but I'm not a kid now, he said. He rubbed his palms over his jeans like he was trying to wipe the feeling off. Do you know how many times I've watched them pick at you and thought, at least it's not me? And then I hated myself for thinking it. I stared at him, tears finally pressing behind my eyes, not from humiliation now, but from the strange tenderness of being seen. Why didn't you tell me you were scared? I asked. Liam let out a shaky laugh. Because I didn't want to make you carry it, he said. You already carry so much. And because I didn't want you to know how much power they still have over me. I nodded slowly, because I understood that. I'd built my whole adult personality around pretending they didn't get to me. Liam stared at his hands. When Dad said you were sensitive, he said quietly, I heard him say it about me too. Like, if I ever slip, if I ever say I'm not okay, I become the sensitive one. The disappointing one. The joke. My throat burned. I don't want you to be scared of that, I said. I don't either, Liam replied. He looked at me then, really looked, eyes wet but stubborn. But I am, and I'm tired of pretending I'm not. We sat there for a long time in the parked car, both of us listening to the distant noise of the party and the closer noise of our own breathing. At one point my phone buzzed. Mum, of course. Then Dad. Then a group message from an aunt that said something like, please don't let this ruin the night. The usual. I didn't answer. Liam did, though. He typed something with his thumbs, moving fast, angry. Then he locked his phone and dropped it into the cup holder like it disgusted him. What did you say? I asked. He swallowed. I said, we're not coming back tonight, he said, and that if they want a relationship with us, they stop using shame as entertainment. My heart thumped. They're going to be furious. Liam nodded, a grim little smile. I know. The next day, Mum called me 8 times. Dad left one voicemail that started with, we need to discuss your behavior, like I was a misbehaving employee. My aunt texted that she loved me, but wished I'd held it together for Nadine's sake. Chloe, my sister, sent a message that just said, you always do this, as if I have a hobby of being humiliated in public. But Liam came over to my place with 2 coffees and a bag of hot chips, like we were teenagers hiding out after getting in trouble. He sat on my couch and stared at the blank TV screen and said, "I can't go back to pretending." I didn't have some perfect reply. I just said, "Me either." And I think that's the strange part. The shame was awful. The public feeling of being discussed like a broken appliance was awful. But something cracked open that night that I didn't know could crack open. The story that I'm the only one who struggles, the only one who's too much, the only one who should be grateful for scraps. My brother admitted he was scared too, and once he said it out loud, I couldn't unhear it. I couldn't go back to being the designated failure while he silently tried to be perfect so the spotlight wouldn't swing. A week later, Liam met Mom for coffee, alone, on purpose. He told me afterward that she cried and tried to apologize without actually apologizing, that she kept saying, "We didn't mean it like that," and, "You know your father," and "we worry," as if worry explains humiliation. He told me Dad refused to come because Dad doesn't do emotions, which is funny because Dad does emotions all the time. He just calls the principals. Liam asked Mom one simple question. He said, "Why is it okay to hurt Erin to motivate her?" Mom didn't answer. I'm still not sure what happens next. I wish I could end this with a clean resolution where my parents suddenly develop emotional intelligence and stop turning our lives into dinner conversation. But the truth is, my parents are the kind of people who think shame is love with a purpose. They think embarrassment builds character. They think vulnerability is weakness. And I don't know if they can change enough to be safe. Why to know is this? Well, my brother said he was scared too. It felt like someone finally turned the lights on in a room I'd been stumbling through alone. It didn't fix everything, but it made the loneliness less absolute. It made me realize I wasn't uniquely defective. I was just the one they'd been comfortable targeting. And now that Liam has admitted he's scared, I don't want either of us to keep living our lives trying to avoid becoming the next punchline at a family barbecue. I don't want to keep begging for dignity from people who treat it like a reward. I don't know if I'll go to the next holiday. I don't know if I'll answer the calls. I don't know if my parents will ever truly apologize. But for the first time, I know I'm not the only one who felt it. And weirdly, that makes me feel stronger than any wake-up call ever could.